Ever since the Fat Controller has purchased Winston, he has always been a bad driver. Careful, sir! Winston, I always am careful! And indeed, he was not careful and very temperamental the rest of the way to Knapford Sheds. The engines were sleeping soundly in the sheds until they woke up by the sounds of a bad driver. They arrived at the sheds after a slow and very uncomfortable ride. Alright everybody, it's time to get to work. James, you're going to pull old Slowcoach. James felt undignified. Alright, sir. Gordon, you are going to take the Earl around Sodor today. Alright, sir, that will be fun. Henry, you are going to take empty log cars to the sawmill. Yes, sir, Henry said. And Edward. Yes, sir. Your driver isn't feeling well today, so I've hired someone else to be your driver today. And just as he said that, the man walked in. He was a grumpy old man, and it seemed like he wasn't very happy to be here working. He didn't even seem like the kind of person to talk until he said something to Sir Topham Hatt. Are you the Fat Controller? He said this in a very nasty voice. Why, yes, I am. And this is the engine you are going to drive today. His name is Edward. This heap of scrap? I do not even know how to operate it. I've been the engineer of a diesel my whole career. All right, I'll show you the basics. Gordon, Henry, James, you guys run along now to your jobs. Me and Edward will deal with this alone. And Sir Topham Hatt showed the unexperienced engineer how to operate a steam engine. After 1 hour, the engineer and Edward finally set off to their job, and their first stop was Elsbridge Station. The engineer was quiet as a mouse. He didn't say anything to Edward. He didn't even say anything to the station masters. All right, you guys be careful. The rails are starting to break down, but the repair crew hasn't been out yet, so I advise you be careful. There was no response to the station master, and Edward was worried. Why not? Sir, why are you not talking to anyone? There was no response to that either. And after that, they set off. Sir Topham Hatt and Winston were inspecting all the stations on the island of Sodor. From Elsbridge to Knapford. Thomas saw how roughly Sir Topham Hatt was driving Winston. Sir, be careful. I don't want you to get into an accident. Thomas, I already am careful. I've already told Winston this. Thomas sighed as he was worried about Sir Topham Hatt. 2 of Thomas's passengers stepped out of the carriages. Thomas, we're worried about that, Sir Topham Hatt. He's always been a good driver, but all of a sudden, ever since he's purchased that car, he's lost his touch. I very much agree with you, said Thomas. So do we. We're worried about him. I am too, said Thomas. Let's hope for the best. On their way to the last stop, the engineer stopped Edward at a crossing and waited to make sure the tracks were clear. Edward questioned why he stopped. Sir, can we get going, as it's getting late? I'm making sure the tracks are clear. Soon after that, they set off. But then Sir Topham Hatt and Winston came around the corner. and they sped straight towards Edward. "Look out, sir!" Winston smashed into Edward. Both engines were derailed and severely damaged. Sir Topham Hatt and the engineer jumped clear before the accident. The engineer dusted himself off and stood up. Wait. You were driving that thing?" he said. "Do you even know how to drive it?" "Well, I do, sir, but not the very best." "So they just let you drive that thing without seeing if you were capable of driving it?" "Yes, sir, but I had a railway to run." "Yes, but you need to keep your railway safe, and I could have been killed. Just look at your engines. They're completely damaged. You know what? You're coming to court with me." "But I have a railway to run." "I've got a friend that used to own a railway. He'll run it while you're gone. Oh, and meet me tonight at Brendam Docks. There'll be a ship to take us to London's finest courthouse." It's all going by plan. That night, Sir Topham Hatt came to the sheds to tell the engines about what happened that day. "All right, everybody, I have some bad news." "What is it, sir?" they all said. "The engineer that was driving Edward today filed a lawsuit on me, and now I have to go to London to discuss it out. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to leave to catch a ship." And he walked away.